You could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello, everyone. Today we're meeting Dr. Wendy O'Connor. She is a Stanford trained positive psychologist and a success coach for female entrepreneurs. Hello, Wendy. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. So let's start a conversation by diving into your journey of becoming the person you are today. What led you to discover your true passion in life? How did it start for you?
Well, it's funny you ask this question this way because what you immediately made me think of was the first moment I knew that I wanted to be a psychologist. And I haven't shared this story before. So, back in seventh grade, we had our first psychology class experience where we learned about psychology and what it is and all the wonderful things. But one of these classes was geared towards careers in psychology. And so our teacher was explaining the different careers you could have if you chose to pursue psychology and become a psychologist. And one of the options was to become a clinical psychologist, to have your own practice, and to help people feel better. And I instantly thought, I can't believe this could be a career because I already do this every day with my friends. Every day I would give advice to friends or they'd come to me to talk about what's going on in life and all the things. And I felt like this was such a natural fit. It just lit this light bulb in my mind. And I was like, this could be literally what I want to do. So I learned a little bit more about it. I completely fell in love with the idea. I never, from that time on, thought twice. I never questioned it. It was always my path. It was my path all the way up until I got my doctorate in clinical psych 15, 16 years ago. It was just this like aha moment for me. Now, that's not typical. That's not the way it typically works for people. So, and I know that, but I share it because it takes me way back to that time that I was just a kid sitting in a class thinking that the world is full of possibility. What on earth would I ever decide to do? And then here's this description of what I thought of as like the dream job. Now, fast forward to when I became a clinical psychologist, I had two thriving practices. I was working with patients with depression and anxiety. It was very meaningful work. I loved it, loved it, loved it until I got to this place in my life where I had three daughters under two. I started to feel burnt out. My energy was going everywhere but inside of me. And I started to feel this shift happening. And I don't know if you've ever felt this, but it's like this internal shift. It was all of a sudden the career that I've spent so much time, energy investing in, creating incredible success with, loving, suddenly felt different. It didn't light me up as much. It didn't feel as replenishing. It didn't feel as rewarding. It started to feel like this, I got the sense that this chapter was coming to a close. Like it was time to complete this chapter because I was needing something different in my life since I was feeling different ways about my personal and professional life. So then I asked myself, and I took myself through the exact process that I take my clients through, but I asked myself, well, what's next then? Like I created this incredible business and it's doing so well. How could I just leave it? How could I just switch gears? Like logically, it didn't make sense. But for me, like life has never actually been logical. It's very much like if it doesn't make me happy, it's not the right fit. Like that's the bottom line for me and how I live my life. So I realized it was time for this closure of a chapter and the beginning of a new one. I explored things that are very important, like my strengths, my values, my desires. And I decided to make a major shift from the clinical space to coaching. And so
Mhm.
now my passion, and that's when you ask about your passion, well, I believe that we're multi-passionate humans. There's so many passions that we have. They all can be waxing and waning over different seasons of life. But that at the time, what I was really craving, the passion that I wanted to ignite, was a passion for helping people get from surviving to thriving. Like I really wanted to close the chapter of helping people go from suffering to functioning. And I was ready to help myself and help others go from a place of survival to truly thriving and flourishing. It started to feel like, as a mama, like life is just so short. We have to like seize what we can. So I
Mhm.
made the shift, and now that's what I do full time.
Wow. Yeah, that's very inspiring. And I see that you yourself took the journey of seeing what could be on the other side of it. And especially nowadays, we're all overwhelmed, feeling exhausted, feeling stressed, being at the job that we're not really fulfilled with. And for some reason, we're still doing it. Sometimes when you ask a person, why would you do that? They don't know why. And I think that is the most important step for them to really become aware and realize what is the purpose of what you're doing and how do you think people can reconnect with their why and their purpose? What could help them to make that shift in their life?
The way I see it and what I practice, what I preach, what I live, and what I teach my clients to move through is this place of one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is thinking that there's this one right choice. There must be this one right thing. And I need to figure out what it is, and I need to nail it and lock it in before I take a risk, before I make a move, before I leave what makes me unhappy. I need to know 100% that this is the guaranteed option, an alternative. And the truth is, there are many alternatives. There are many paths to happiness and fulfillment, to success, to feeling living an abundant life. There are so many paths, but the easiest way to figure that out, what that is, when we think about reconnecting with our why, I think actually comes from a place of not asking ourselves the why piece yet. It comes from a place of knowing thyself first. And this is where I see a big disconnect, especially for women that I've worked with. There's this disconnect. It's we've shown up in a very conditioned state of living where we're told to get the grades, told to graduate, told to get the job, told to get the partner, get the house, have the kids. We're following this prescribed path. And then we wake up one day and we're like, this is not fun. Like, I don't love this. This isn't this what I'm supposed to be doing? Isn't this what's supposed to make me happy and light me up? Like, why isn't it happening? And I see that that's the root cause of that is the disconnection from self, that we let other people or society or expectations make our decisions for us, that we actually don't spend enough time investing our energy into knowing who we are and what we desire. So I take my clients through the same journey I went on, which is identifying what I'm good at, what my strengths are, identifying what matters most to me, what my values are, and
Mhm.
really getting honest and unlimited about what my true deepest desires are. Then, when we have those elements and we put those together, decisions of what's next become so much easier because we know ourselves better. It's not
Yeah.
guessing, it's not hoping the next thing is my next thing. It's like, oh no, I get it now. Like, I see myself for who I am and what I desire. And now we create a roadmap to the desire from a place of alignment, not from a place of guessing and hoping and conditioning.
Yeah, definitely. And we need to first know ourselves to really like give ourselves the best at what we can do. And a lot of times I think we underestimate what it's possible for us. We kind of playing short, playing small, because we don't see that we can achieve certain goals in life. And I think that strength, that power that we reconnect with comes from understanding our core beliefs and what is the most important, I would say, principles in life that we stand upon and who we are. And defining that for ourselves will make things clear. And I think also a lot of times we find ourselves being in a negative thinking cycle about criticizing ourselves in a way. And if you can elaborate on maybe some kind of practices that helped you or helped your clients to break that cycle and to really become present here now, and with that kind of sense of self-empowerment, they can make their choices in a better way and seeing for themselves what's possible.
Yeah, you bring up such a good point. It really is so common that I say this all the time too, like we are the ones who stand in our own way. We may have had the experience of being taught or influenced or conditioned to think about things a particular way or to see our lives or our abilities, our talents a particular way. But as soon as we even discover who we are, what we're about, what matters to us, we still hold ourselves back. We still get very judgmental and self critical. We still let self doubt rule. We still let imposter syndrome or perfectionism or, that inner critic make decisions for us. And we don't live into our full potential. So when you think about, like, well, what is the way through that? The very simple answer is taking action when you're scared, taking action when you have no guarantees, taking action when you're not sure. It's really creating the evidence of what's possible along the way. But at the same time, it's simultaneously really ramping up your self belief. It's like, if you desire it, you deserve it. This is something I talk a lot about. It's this idea a lot of women feel like, well, I don't know if I can have it and I don't know if I deserve it. And shouldn't I just be grateful because I have it pretty good right now and it's not so bad and life's not miserable and I could be worse off. Yes, all of those things may be true, but that doesn't mean that that's a reason to not pursue a life that's just blows your mind, that a life that you just are so excited to wake up to every day. So when we think about the hurdles or the obstacles to success and we think about particularly the mindset piece, people think I need to wait till I'm ready or more confident or believe in myself to move. But I disagree. I think that the confidence builds with time and taking action and creating evidence. The self belief gets stronger every time you make the bold, brave move. Like you need to really embody the person who creates a successful, flourishing life for themselves while it's unfamiliar, while it's not mapped out yet, while it's uncertain. All of that doesn't actually need to be figured out before you move forward. But as long as you're moving forward, you're moving in the right direction. So I talk a lot about making action the priority. And so that way you can accelerate your mindset work and accelerate the transformation of how you think and what you believe is true about you. And you're not waiting for this like magical someday that never comes.
Definitely. And I agree. Taking action is the most important piece that is missing. A lot of times we talk about something that we want or imagine, but we're really not ready to take action. And that's where the magic happens, right? So where you will show yourself the evidence of what you can do. And the more you take the action in the direction of your dreams, right? That's where you will see that step after step, you become more confident. And now you are building that self-belief. And now everything, it's kind of like it's opening doors for you, more possibilities, opportunities come your way. You meet certain people. So it's just, I think this idea of not knowing, but really becoming comfortable with uncertainty, which is important because a lot of times we wouldn't know exactly, but at least we are taking that step and we know that nothing bad will happen as a result of it, but rather we will be more empowered and we will know more clear step after step what is next. And also I think like we kind of focus on what we can bring to ourselves, but also like it will be a ripple effect with people we interact with, how we build relationship with others, how we showing up for our family and our kids as well, because they learn by an example. If you show them an example of what you can achieve, it's just, you kind of like given the opportunity for them to try themselves because now they know that it is possible. And I think that's very important to inspire others as well as a result of your journey. But being the embodied person of all of the qualities that you wish you had, but really start doing it first. And then it will become like just inevitable evidence of what you are, don't you think?
It absolutely 100%. And I think as I listen to you and I agree with everything you're saying, I'm also thinking about your listeners who are like, well, how do we embody, and how do we move and take messy action? And where do we start? Because there's this whole sea of possibility. If we're talking about this in this way of like the world can be whatever you want, your life can be just by design, get out there and create it. Many people are going to say, well, where do I start and how do I do this? And so I think it's really important to remind the listeners today that you are not going to know every step along the journey. But if you start with one desire, if you start with one thought and you start with one action, right? Like this is how I would break it down. For somebody that says, well, I don't know how to embody and I don't know where to go. Take one desire you haven't fully lived into yet in your life, something you have not achieved yet or haven't achieved to the level that you want to. Bring that one thing to mind. Next is to think about what's the one thought that's going to help you, support you, encourage you, lock it in, your inspiration, motivation, determination, conviction, that you're going to do the things it takes to have what you want. What's that thought? What do you need to remind yourself of or tell yourself or believe every day to hook into that thought or belief every day to make it stronger, to make it more powerful, and to let it influence the third piece, which is what's the one action? What's the one behavior you can take today? The one action, just to see if I do this thing, does this move the needle closer to me achieving this one desire? So let's say you want to write a book. Let's create one sentence of the first chapter and the first paragraph, and you write one sentence, or you brain dump ideas out for the title of your book, or you research publishers, or you follow someone on Instagram who's writing a book or celebrating their book launch, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this one thing. Doing one thing doesn't have to be the best thing, the perfect thing, the right thing off the bat. It just needs to be the thing that reminds you and your brain, more importantly, that there is possibility on the other side of action. That it's not about, I have to find out everything that's perfectly right so I can just map it out to the T. It's really about reminding your brain that there's something you desire. It may seem far away, but the more that I just even imagine what it would take to get there, and I do one of those tiny things today, we start to close the gap. And all this journey is about continuously closing the gap.
Yeah.
That's what success journey is, fulfillment is, continuously focusing on closing the gap. So what's that gap for you right now? What's the one desire, the one thought that's going to support you every day, day in and day out? And what's one action you can take? And then you're going to start to build some momentum and clarity as you move.
Right. And also, I think that gap that you mentioned for some people is so big in their mind where they kind of like have this fear of not making it or fear of failure, let's say. And because it's so big in their mind, they kind of like think, why would I even start, right? Like it's not reachable for me. Or they compare themselves to other people. Now I have social media, go to Instagram and all those success stories, right? And we think, how am I better than this person? Who am I to do this, right? And all of those thoughts coming up. So how would you suggest people deal with those thoughts when they rise, and how can they really empower themselves to not compare themselves to others, knowing that you have your own path, your own journey? It will look differently for you than for that person. And also what we see in social media is usually the end result of what they've been through, and we don't know what they've been through. They never showed us this, so we have to kind of like keep that in mind as well. But what do you think will really like help us to deal with those kind of thoughts so we don't think ourselves as failure even before starting?
Mm-hmm. I get really amped up about this because I get very upset. Like I get like emotionally upset when I hear or know that people are thinking thoughts like, well, who am I to? who am
Yeah.
I to have that? Or who am I to create that or live that way? Or who am I? Or like, why would I deserve that? Or it gets me so angry. It's like, why? There's nobody different than you. We're all the same. Everyone, we're all the same in this way. Not one person's more deserving than another of having a life that they want or the success that they want. Not one person's like more deserving of that or more worthy of that than you. So this idea of like, well, who am I to do that? Or how, I'm not deserving of that. Or, I'm afraid to fail. It's like we have to remind ourselves every day that our thoughts are just thoughts. They're just thoughts. Like we don't pay attention to you have up to 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day.
Mm.
It's bizarre. It's crazy. You can't
Yeah.
even comprehend that, but that's the truth. So are you paying attention to and letting guide you every single one of your 40 to 60,000 thoughts of the day? No, you are very selective. You have the same thoughts. About 90% of your thoughts that you're aware of are the same thoughts every day, over and over and over again. And they only have power because you give them power to guide your decisions and choices. So it's like, I get so upset because I just feel like, no, like stop letting thoughts that are just strung together words have power over your dreams. Like this just, it
Mm.
doesn't make sense. It's not the way it's meant to be. It's like the choice to get out of your head is a choice. And people don't like that because a lot of times when I say that, people feel like, oh, like it's on me. Oh, the ownership is on me. The responsibility is on me. Like I'd rather play small, dilute my dreams, settle for less, and be more comfortable than to actually take ownership over my life. And that is also something that fires me up because I'm just like, you have one life, live it to the fullest, like take no
Yeah.
prisoners, go all in. Otherwise, what are we doing? Like, why are we in this limbo land of like mediocrity and languishing and settling and it's fine? It's like, that's not the way I want to live. And I know for many of your listeners, that's not the way that they want to live either. It's the way we convince ourselves we want to live because it sounds scary to do anything other than that. But what we typically fear, and I'm leading a masterclass on this in a couple of hours actually,
Mm.
what we actually fear is
Yeah.
the emotional experience of failure. We're
Yeah.
afraid we're going to be embarrassed. We're afraid we're going to feel shame. We're afraid we're going to feel let down, disappointed, discouraged. And so we go to great lengths through procrastination, through settling for a life that's subpar. We go to great lengths to avoid negative feelings. But every single person listening to this episode has had disappointment, feeling discouraged, frustrated, let down, jealous, embarrassed, and
Yeah.
you survived them all. It's not a reason to not live the dream life. It's not enough of a reason. And if we start to encourage ourselves to build self leadership and resilience and conviction and to be able to have a different relationship with our negative thoughts and our negative feelings,
Mhm.
it doesn't have power over us anymore. It's just not a thing. It's like noticing an annoying fly, but you know it's not threatening because it's not a wasp. And so you're just like, oh, get out of here. Like, I'm just not going to be bothered with you anymore. To become unbothered by those thoughts is like your absolute power tool that is a superpower. That takes time, that takes learning specific strategies, that takes changing your relationship with your thoughts and beliefs, but that's all available to you too. So I'm not the psychologist that's going to go into like, well, let's, for the purpose of our episode, I'm not going into like, well, let's take each thought and like see if it's true or not, and weigh the evidence for and against this thought. I'm like, screw the thoughts. Stop letting them have power over you. Stop letting them steer you in a different direction than you want to go, and get back in the driver's seat. Take ownership of your life experience and move. That's where I stand.
Wow. Yes, definitely. And I feel like that's the most important piece for us, taking responsibility and knowing that it's our choice to choose which thought I would like to entertain. It's my, you know, like my body, my mind, it's where my home is, like, and who I'm allowed to be in my home, who I can invite in my home, right? So it's my choice, and I can filter those thoughts to my benefit. And if I know that that doesn't serve me, right, why would I even invite it or look at it? I can just let it go. And
Right,
yeah,
right. I
this
always say this is like, imagine yourself to be the most exclusive club and you have like the most powerful bouncer at the gate. And that
Yeah,
bouncer is literally like, mm-mm, you're not getting in. Like, you do not make the cut. It's like, imagine yourself as this exclusive club. Like,
right.
you are the foundation of all of your happiness, all of your success, all of your fulfillment. And so for letting in the patrons who are not fitting the bill with how you want your club to feel, what the vibe is, you're going to find yourself feeling unfulfilled and unsuccessful and not where you want to be. It's like, get more discerning with what you allow in and what you keep out, and that's a very powerful tool. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes, like kind of like a dress code for
Yeah.
our VIP club, right? So who can be invited? But yeah, that's very important if we take that responsibility and know that we are the in the driver's seat of our life and we're the ones deciding where we're gonna go. Again, it's just so much can open up for us, and we all of us deserve to have a happy, fulfilling, joyful life. And nothing can really stop us unless we let it stop ourselves, unless we settle for something that, we think is safe and doesn't require us to take certain steps that probably scare in our mind for some reason. Again, maybe something happened in the past. Some people went through some kind of trauma, or they heard stories of other people and they think it's not going to work for me. But again, we just kind of like convincing ourselves to play small. We're stopping ourselves from taking that action. And why should we? We should really like focus on, what's possible and how can I bring myself closer to that dream or that desire or whatever that idea in your mind that, will light you up, and that's something like a lot of people miss. And I think it's important to bring our awareness to which thoughts am I going to entertain and really like, start choosing on a daily basis, because it has to be a daily practice. It's not just, once in a while, but you have to make it a priority, really. Like your mental health, it's your priority. The way you care about yourself, it's your priority. You are the one who's going to give it to yourself. Nobody will come and rescue you. I think sometimes people wait for something to appear, but it's not the case.
No, it's not the case. And it doesn't have to be the case. And that's not the greener grass. Having somebody come in and rescue you or having somebody do it for you, that's not actually what you want anyway. Like, we think to ourselves like, oh, that would be so much easier if life just looked like this or felt like this, or my partner was like this, or my boss was different like this. Or we spend too much time thinking about, well, if things were different, it would be so much easier for me, instead of asking yourself like, what do I have control over in my life? What can I influence? What can I pivot? What can I change? What can I modify to live the existence I want to live? A lot of the time, many people will put that responsibility on the environment, on the situation, on the external variables, and just rob their power, just really let themselves live in this state of delusion that, it's really about the outside world is why I'm here. And I really feel like the most empowered person you're ever going to be is the person who just truly steps into the shoes of the person that you want to be. It's not even like people will often ask me, what's the affirmation? What's the mantra? What should I be doing every day? And my belief is you don't need any of it. You just need to get up and say, I am her. What would she do today? How would she act? How does she think? How does she show up? What does she not settle for? And that's your script for the day. And the more you do that every day, you just get very honest with yourself in a loving way, not a judgmental, critical, beat yourself up into being a better person way. But the more loving and encouraging you are, like, the more fun this gets to be. And the more you see possibility where, like, past you may have seen excuses or hurdles or obstacles. It's like, what if current and future you actually just sees opportunities to keep growing, strengthening, closing the gap, becoming that next version through showing up every morning and saying, who am I going to be today? Like, let it be simple. You don't need a 10-step morning routine. You don't need a 10-step evening routine. You don't need the 30 best affirmations to create the life of your dreams. You just need to wake up and go, who do I want to be? That's it.
Wow. Yeah, that's so empowering. And also, I think a lot of times, when we look what's around us and where we are, and we kind of like feel upset or sad, or we don't accept our circumstances as the result of our choices that we made in the past. If we can just accept where we at right now and see it from a different perspective, that I survived certain things, I achieved certain things, and really encourage ourselves that it doesn't matter where I'm at right now, I can change. It takes my decision in the present moment right now. And actually, everything before that prepared me to be who I am today. And this is my decision to move forward now with a different intention, different mindset. And if I choose to be her, right, how she's going to show up. So also, I think that piece, like people try to avoid because of the certain unpleasant feelings of the situation they're in, or I don't know, relationship they're in. And they kind of like trying to escape that through distracting themselves through different, ways of distraction. But really, like, to be present and to accept it is the first step to really like take ownership, right? And from that point, you love yourself more for whatever you survive, wherever you dealt with. And doesn't matter the circumstances. You don't have to blame people, situation, events. It's all, kind of like give you some lesson probably to learn. So if you just really like get empowered by being who you are and accepting yourself for who you are, and start giving yourself more care and love, to encourage yourself that now I'm gonna live my life differently, and this is what I choose.
Yes, there are two things I'd love to say because you're absolutely right. There's so much that comes down to choice. And sometimes people don't like when I say that. They don't like to hear like you get to choose, you get to choose. And they're like, forget it. Like that doesn't seem true. It doesn't seem possible. Like look at what's going on. But I want to say this, you don't have to live there anymore. Whatever this piece from the past, a thought, a belief, a memory, a story, a relationship, an experience, a hardship, you don't have to live there anymore. There's so many years lost in people's lives because they live in the past and they connect and hook in like an octopus. They hook all tentacles into this story, to this old version of themselves or old moment or old memory, and you don't have to live there anymore. So I just want to say that because I just feel like reminding yourself that you don't have to live in a space where the past haunts your future is is an absolute life-changing moment for people to have. When you hear that and it clicks and it lands, it's everything. And the other thing I want to say is your decisions are not meant to be life sentences.
Yeah.
Your job, your career, your relationship, your yeses and your nos are not life sentences. Like, stop taking those decisions so seriously to the place of like, oh, well, I chose this job, so here I am till death do us part. And it's like, no, you can pivot, change your mind, get out of there, go do something else, start your own thing, or change companies, or leave altogether and create something that you don't even know what you want yet. Like, just give yourself that permission to start over or to pivot, to start again, to change. It's not meant to be a life sentence. The same with relationships. It does not mean you don't take your relationship seriously. That's not what I'm saying. But we all know many people who have stayed in relationships for way longer than they should have. And then they come out and go, I just wish I ended it sooner. I just wish I left sooner. I just wish I changed my mind sooner. And it's this reminder that time is precious and life is now. So don't live in the past. You don't have to live there anymore. It's over. It's done. Chapter closed. Let it die. And give yourself that permission to pivot and start again, because your decisions are not life sentences. They're just decisions for what you thought was best at the time. That's all. Let it be light.
Yes. And I think a lot of people getting too attached to their past or the decision that they made, and they again beat themselves up over and over again, staying in that mindset of being a victim to circumstances or people they dealt with. But again, like you said, it's not a life sentence. You can pivot, you can change, all it takes is your decision right now in that present moment. That's where the power is. You're not living in the past or dreaming about the future without taking any action, but you have to do something about it, and it has to be today, right now. What can you change in your life?
Yeah. Life is now. Life is now. Live it now. Change your mind now. Give yourself all the permissions now. Like I say that the comfort zone, which is where most people live in the comfort zone, I call it a dream graveyard. It's where you go to die. Like your dreams will die in the comfort zone. Like they will not be watered, they will not be nurtured, they will not grow, they will not thrive, they will not flourish. They're going to die. So we might as well just put some headstones around the comfort zone for all the dreams or desires that you didn't fulfill. That's not the vibe. That's not this life. It's not what you're meant for. You're meant for more than that. And so it's like we need to allow ourselves, and you said earlier, like to get comfortable being uncomfortable, well, to get comfortable in the discomfort. And I'm almost like, don't even get comfortable in the discomfort, just do it anyway. Like that's my thought. It's like we need to leave the comfort zone. You leave the comfort zone, you're going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to get comfortable there. You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be scared. Because if we think about a growth mindset and the zones of growth, we have
Mhm.
our comfort zone, and the
Yeah,
next stage is the fear zone, and then
right.
the next stage is the learning zone, and then the
Mhm.
final is the growth zone. So it's like you want to get to grandmother's house, but you don't want to cross the bridge and go through the woods to get there, and you're like, this is the way to grandmother's house, like you got to go this way. So when we leave the comfort zone, you're not going to feel comfortable in the fear, but we need to allow fear to be a normal part of growth and development, that's the expectation, not the exception. And when people start to allow fear to be the expectation, not the exception, not this idea that, oh, if fear pops up, it's a message that I'm on
Mhm.
the wrong track, that I need to go back home to my safety zone, that I'm making the wrong call. Fear is not the messenger of something bad. It's actually the sign that you're on to something really damn good. So if
Right.
you're leaving comfort, getting into fear, you're not going to be comfortable there, but you don't have to be, because fear is going to be unnerving and that's normal. But if you can change your relationship with the fear and start
Mhm.
getting to that place where you're like, this is an expectation, not an exception, I'm on to something good, keep going, you will be able to get to the next two zones, which is what's going to create for you the true transformation. So it's really powerful that I believe it's really powerful to remind people that what
Mhm.
you think is on the other side of the comfort zone is about getting to the fear place, and then like you'll get there and it'll just go away and you'll be like, okay, and that's the sign I'm on the right path. That's not the sign
Mhm.
you're on the right path. Fear is the sign you're on the right path. Like fear is the sign that you're onto something good. And so when we start to interpret fear differently and we start to use it as a different messenger, we start to completely like open doors that never existed for us before.
Wow, that's definitely a shift from being scared, thinking it's something wrong, but rather change the relationship with fear and look at it as something expected. It's part of the process. This is how it should be. You own to something good, something that is common to your life, but with you allowing that and leaning on to that, that's how you will see what is there. Stretch yourself, stretch the boundaries, get out of the comfort zone, go through that path, and then you will see. And again, like, fear is just something we created in our mind that is, preventing us from taking that step. But that's misinterpretation of the message that we're receiving,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
So if we just really look at it from a different perspective and start treating it as as an ally, not an enemy, I would say in this case. So why don't you try and see for yourself what the worst that could happen, right? So see for yourself and you will build an evidence that it's not as scary, but perhaps there's something, as the flip side of it that could bring you joy and fulfillment. How would you know without trying?
Never. You never will. You'll never know. You'll never know what truly that you're capable of or what's possible for you or what it even feels like if you don't go for it. When you think about just like living to our full potential, people get intimidated by that idea because they think that's going to be so hard. It's going to be hustle. It's going to be scary. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be so many pitfalls and challenges.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking like this is exciting, it's so exciting. Who could I really be? What's possible for me? And what does that feel like on the other side of living into my full potential? Like living a full life of meaning and purpose and connection with self and creating success, however you define it. Like to me, like that's what this is all about. Like that's for me, and everyone has a different understanding of like the purpose of life. But for me, it's like the purpose of life is to seize and savor it, to be all in, to live into your full potential, to have the time of your life, to create and grow and stretch yourself and to just see what it's all about, to play this game. And it's not meant to trivialize any parts of and or seasons or chapters of life, because there are hard moments, days, weeks, months of our lives. That's no exception to the truth of it. But
Mhm.
this idea overall that there are so many people out there that are like the someday crew, like someday I'll feel more confident, or someday I'll have the money, or someday I'll really feel the pull, or someday I'll be brave enough. It's like it's just it feels like a sad story. It just feels like no, no, no. Like we need to stop operating from that place, because there's just so much in this life that you haven't even like you can't even comprehend how good it is, like how good it can be, because you haven't let yourself play in that space. Like, and that's something I want to leave your listeners with too, is this idea of like play in the space, play in the space of what you want, play in the space of who you want to be, play in the space of what life would look like and be like, and what decisions you'd make and what you wouldn't, and where you'd set boundaries, what you'd say yes to, what you'd say. Play in the space that it's possible, that it's real for you, that it's something that you can create. It doesn't matter how far away you see it from being where you are today. That doesn't matter. Like forget the distance. Forget the distance. The distance doesn't matter. What
Mhm.
matters is today, what you have control over, who you're showing up as today, how you're seizing and savoring this one day that will never, ever, ever happen again. Feeling proud of how you navigated this day, feeling lit up by your life, and tomorrow's a new day and you wake up and do it again. Like this is fun. It's fun. Okay. This is fun. This is fun and exciting. It doesn't have to be seen as this burden and this scary, like huge, ominous cloud that you have to like defeat before you get to the rainbow. It's like
Mm.
create the rainbow today, because like today gets to be a happy day if you choose to look at it that way.
Yes, yes, and it's always our choice. And I think people underestimate what can be done within a year. Next year, you can be in a different place once you start taking those actions. You never know what could happen in a year. And don't underestimate, but rather have that intention. And every single day, what you take, what you can take control over is what you can do, what you can choose, and how you're going to show up is what will bring you closer to that dream of yours. And maybe, perhaps, maybe you even get more than you desired. You never know, right? So
100%.
sometimes, yeah, we think we have this one idea, but perhaps life has something better in plans for you that you would know.
That's right.
So you
That's
have to be open to possibilities to really like play in this life that is full of, excitement and joy, and just be present, to be aware of what you choose on every day, every single day that you wake up. What is your intention today?
yep. What
Yeah.
is your intention today, right? What do I want from today? How do I want to feel today? How do I want to live today? Who am I going to be today? Let it be simple. And for those of your listeners who may be rolling their eyes because they're just like, oh, okay, like here's these like two Pollyannas that are like so excited about life and seizing and savoring and choice and power. And it's like we're human. Like we have all the feelings of the highs and the lows of this journey. It's just about getting really strong in the conviction that you get to choose to live your life the way you want to, even on a bad day. Like it doesn't mean there aren't bad days, right? This is not this like toxic positivity stuff of like it's all fine, it's all easy, it's all light, it's all flowy. Like what's your problem? It's really it's work. this living a life that you truly see as yours for the taking is a very huge mindset shift for a lot of people. And it's work. There's follow through, right? There's the radical responsibility. There's the energy it takes to follow through, especially on a bad day, or especially when it's not working, or especially when you're struggling. Like, this takes work, it takes effort and energy. But what is exciting is how life could be feeling so much more aligned for you with some like pretty simple, pretty potent, but pretty simple tweaks. And that's always available to you. Like, whether today's the day, you're like, today's my day, or you're like rolling your eyes and you're like, tomorrow might be the day, but today's not the day. That's all fine. It's perfect. Like, you're on this journey and that's it, you are where you are, and that's beautiful. But just the reminder of like, it's available to you if you want it. It's available to you if you'd like to have it. Like, a couple tweaks, a couple shifts, and you could unlock a lot of blocks.
Yes. Yeah, that's beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. And for those who would like to connect with you online, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram's my favorite place to hang out, at Dr. Wendy O'Connor. Same with LinkedIn and same with Facebook. So come say hi, introduce yourself. I love meeting new people. If there is anything that really stuck out to you about our episode today, I love hearing big takeaways. So feel free to share. And thank you so much for having me on today and taking the time to talk about my favorite subject of all. So this was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And as we close today, what would be the thought for our listeners?
Any thought? I have lots of thoughts. What would be like an ideal thought for your listeners? What kind of thought would they like?
Yeah, what do you think is the most important thought they would, focus on today?
It's my favorite saying that I have engraved on a necklace, my favorite necklace. It says, I can and I will. And when we make that simple decision to be able and willing, able and willing, able and willing over and over again, you completely can change your life. So that's what I would share. It's like, that's my favorite thought quote. It's like, I can and I will. I can do this and I will do this. It's not just that I can, but I won't, or I'm not sure if I can. It's like, I can do this and I will do this. This is who I am. So becoming her is about believing that you can and you will. And if you take that into your life, it's going to be a pretty good one.
Yes, we can and we will. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy your day.
You too. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.